All right, so once we set up the Firebase and libraries and Flutter Firebase SDKs, we can start to use Firebase in our app. Okay, everything will become super simple. The first service we're going to show you is the Firebase Authentication, because a lot of apps you probably will need to do the login and sign up. I think that actually is one of the easiest way to set up the whole thing. All right, so let me actually bring it back to the Firebase portal right here. All right, so we already finished the setup of the project. Now, you want to go to the first service, which is called authentication. All right, so only do this one if you ever need authentication. If your app doesn't need this one, you don't have to set up authentication. All right. So first time you do this, they will ask you, okay, you can use this one to authenticate and manage users from a variety of providers without any of the server-side code. It's a really cool feature here. And then when you set up the sign-in method, let's click on this button right here. And then they give you a lot of different ways to sign up. For example, you can sign up with a basic email and password. You can do that with a phone number, and you can even do the Google login, Facebook login, Twitter login, right? So I'm going to start with a very basic one, the email and password. Okay, I'm going to click on this one. I will enable this, and there's another option called enable email link. So without a password, I think that's just by clicking the email. I don't think that's convenient. I'm just going to enable the first one. So save this one here, and now we got a one way to do the sign up, right? So. And as you can see, once you set up this one and go back to the users, you will be able to see all the users that has been signed up with your service right here. Right now, nobody signed up. And then you can definitely add a user manually with an email and password, and they can manage it for you. But we want people to sign up from our app, right? And then there's some other things like templates. There's some other usage. The template is probably something about how do you verify the email, how do you reset the password, all of those stuff. Okay, so once this one is done, we enable the email and password login. Let me show you how we can do that in the Flutter. All right, so go back to the code. All right, so what we want to do now is, first of all, let's actually do the sign up, right? So right now we don't have a sign up button, and I can add a button very quick. All right, so right here, actually, let's actually do another button. So let me find out the login button right here, right? So, and this is the raise button. And then we can do another one just by copying all of this. Okay, let's just do one more, and I call this sign up. All right, so I think for some reason this is too big because we're expanding things. All right, and then let's actually fix the UI. Maybe let me get rid of the margin first. Let's just bring our buttons back and rerun everything. Now we bring them back. All right, so I think the width is still kind of important, so we'll do 100. See, okay, let's do 200. All right, maybe each do 200. All right, and then they're a little bit too close to each other, right? So we can do, let me refresh this one. Yeah, let's just add a little bit margin. I think previously the issue was the margin was too big, so I'm gonna do a little bit margin right here. So under here we'll do a margin, edge only. I'll just do some kind of margin at the bottom, maybe 10. Refresh that. All right, so let's actually also try the other one. Maybe 5. 10 is too much. Let me just do 5. All right. And then the other one also added a margin here, which is the top margin. All right, so something like this. It looks a little bit better, right? So one is log in and sign up, right? So when I click on sign up, I want to sign up the user, and I probably just do this in the same screen right here. Okay, just to show you the example. But ideally, when you sign up, you actually should go to a new screen to do it, right? So maybe I'll just do that so that we can have a really complete example. All right, so let's actually create another screen here, sign up. Okay, so to simplify everything, I'm gonna copy this code here, the login screen, because sign up probably looks very similar to this one. So I will just click on this login screen and copy and paste. I'll call this sign up page. All right. So the sign up page, since I copied all the code over, the class name are the same. So I need to change the name right here. So this one should be sign up page. Sign up. and then sign up page state. So change all of these things over. All right, and then the title here, we need to change it to sign up. All right, and then coming back to the login screen, if you click on sign up, if you ever click on the sign up right here, and then we're going to navigate into the sign up page. All right, so that's how we do it. And then refresh, run it. I click on sign up. All right, so it goes to the sign up page, right? So let's actually modify this one a little bit. For the sign up page, we don't need a login button again. So we only need one button, and then we don't need the password thing. So I can also delete that one. All right, run this again. Oh, sorry, I deleted the wrong thing. This is the login page, okay, not actually the sign up page. All right, let me make sure I'm not losing anything. Going back to login and go to sign up. All right, so let me actually modify the sign up page. The sign up page, as I mentioned, I don't need this forget password text, and now I can only do one button, which is the sign up. All right, so that's it. And then we can add a little bit more information about sign up later on. For example, email password, we can confirm the password. We can also do the maybe do some other user profile information such as the name and everything, right? So with that, I can change maybe this one here, the image a little bit smaller. Right now it takes 40%. I'll do maybe 30% or 25%. I'll do this one. All right, so that's how it works. Now, as you can see, when you do this one, the image actually got smaller. It's just because I think we are either adding some margin or we are actually this cover here. Let's actually change how we fit. Let's try to do a fill. No, so I think that is because some of the margin we're adding. Okay, so I'm not gonna come back to I'll come back to debug this one a little bit later. Let's actually just focus on finishing this sign up screen here first. So this button is actually too big. The reason is because we are actually doing an expanded. All right, so I'm gonna delete that expanded. That looks kind of weird. All right, so let's try this one here. All right, so that looks a little bit better. Okay, but then you can definitely make it a little bit higher, right? So the height will do 100. It's too much. Maybe just do 65. All right, something like this. Okay, sign up button. Very simple sign up. I just want to differentiate that with our login screen. Okay, so once you have this, and then we can start to actually let user type an email and password and click on the button to confirm that. Right, so to actually sign up, what we need to do is to grab the email and password you provided, and you can also add a password confirmation box. That's fine. Then we need to send it to the database. So that is actually the process. So let me actually write it down. So if you go to the actual sign up button, where is the sign up button? Actually, it's right here. So right now, that should go to the screen. This one is wrong. We will need to update it. So step one, you actually need to get the email and password typed, and then we need to send it to Firebase Authentication service. So pretty much 2 steps. And the first step, we haven't shown you how you can do that. And then if you Google, you can find it. How, if I type something right here, right? So how can I get the actual content? So in order to do that, you will actually need to add some something called a controller, right? So let's actually do this. I'm gonna go up here in the class. All right, so this text box is called a text field. Text field can support something called a controller. All right, so if you want to do a controller, so I'm gonna create a controller. One is called email controller, and this will be something called a text editing controller. This is coming from the Flutter library. And the same thing, you need to do a password controller, just an object, and then it's also called a text editing controller. So you create these 2 objects, and then you can actually integrate these 2 objects into your into the text field. So this one is the password, right? Then this one is the email. So inside this text field, now you could do something called a controller, and you will do this one is for email controller, and then the other one is controller. This is a password controller. All right. So once you have this, the controller will allow you to grab the data type inside the box. So let me show you. So for example, here, if I do print email controller dot text, that's going to show you the actual text you type there. And this one is a password controller dot text. All right, so I'm not going to do this one for now. Let's actually run this. All right, so I'm going to type some email, user@gmail.com, and the password 12345, and then click on the button. As you can see, it actually can grab the email and password you type right here. So if you do more, and it will just show you all of those data. So that's how you can get the data from the actual input box. You will need to set up a controller. All right, so once you have this, the next step will be to do the authentication. And everything will be done through Firebase SDK. So for all the documentation, now if you just Google Flutter Firebase Authentication, and then you should be able to find out that actual library from the official documentation. All right, so in general, you're looking for this kind of links with the pub.dev. That's actually the initial official repository for all these packages. So click on this one. This is the type of the page you're looking for. Okay, we are using the Firebase Authentication library, and then this library actually tells you what you need to do to set it up, what you need to do to actually call the code, all the examples right here, so you can find a lot of this information. There's normally a tab called example that just gave you more concrete coding example that you can use and follow, and this is also very helpful. And or sometimes if you just Google like Flutter Firebase Authentication, and that normally tells you more examples. So just kind of looking at some of the examples to get things working. All right, so but I'm trying to give you some of the very basic and concise way of doing all of this sign up and login stuff. All right, so what you need to do right now is once you know the email password, you need to send it to Firebase. Whenever you try to use the Firebase service, you're gonna do this. Okay, so since this is called a Firebase Authentication, all right, so you find out Firebase Auth, and then you use this thing called dot instance. Dot instance allows you to get a specific instance you can use to call for the services, and then you don't need to worry about how to create a new instance. Probably they use a singleton pattern to always give you one instance. So this is always the way you can use to actually find the reference to actually call the service. And you don't need to worry about where the authentication service is, because all the information has been saved in the Google-services file, so they know where your server is. All right, so from here, and then you can do another dot, and you will be able to start to call a lot of other methods you can see. Okay, so the one we're going to use here is sign up. So sign up, you can actually see there is something called a create a user with email and password. So this is actually very straightforward to use. All you need to do is to provide an email, and the email coming from here, and also the password, and coming from another controller. I'll just show you how this one works. That's it. All right, so that is a function that you would need to call. All right, so let's actually finish this line. Now I want to talk a little bit more about how this line works. Okay, this one looks like it's a function call that just call and just gave you the email and password and put that into the database, right? So that's what it does. But then this one here, I want you to pay attention to the return type. All right, so this one here, if you like a return type, is something called a future and bracket authentication result. Okay, let's actually write it down. So future authentication result. So I'll call it maybe result. Okay, so this function call returns you an object, and this object is a type of future object, and then it's actually give you this kind of a data inside. All right, so what is the future? Now the reason they have this kind of future concept is that this one here, when you try to create a user with email and password, you are talking to the Firebase Authentication server, and it's a remote communication, and it takes some time, right? So whenever you talk to the server, database, it may take some time. So when you are trying to sign up and then talking to the server, and one way you can do it is just let user to wait there and just until this option has been finished, and then you move on. But then that may cause some problem, because if you click on the button, let's think about that. You click on this button right here, all right, to sign up, and it takes 3 seconds. And if we're just holding and waiting on this one here, your app is frozen, and that is not a very good user experience because the user will cannot do anything else. But because this function is taking a while, and if you are waiting on it, that's exactly what you get. You can't really improve that until you change it better and faster server. So that's why when we're dealing with this kind of a long time process operations, we like to use a asynchronized way. So which means that I don't want to wait on this operation. I just want to call it, and then you tell me when things are done, and I'll come back to do something else. So that's what this future is. So if you have this future object, all right, so there are a few things you can do. Now, I can just go ahead here to say that result dot, and you can see there's something called a then function. I'm gonna do a then. So this function tells you that if the thing has been finished and finished successfully, what do you want to do? For example, I want to show people, oh, actually signed up successfully. I want to go to the next screen or something like that, right? So this is how you can specify that kind of behavior. If this one is successfully done, then I'm going to do this. And this one here uses some kind of a lambda operation, and you don't have to do this. I can just use a basic functionality with a function like this. But then there's a return, okay? The data depends on what's being returned right here. And actually, which is this, is an authentication result. So this one will be returned right here whenever the function is done. So that's one thing you can do. I'm going to print like successfully signed up. All right. Now there is another functionality about result. You can do result dot error, catch error. This is also very important, because this one allows you to know that if things are not done correctly or successfully, and what do you want to do? So I'm going to here print failed to sign up. All right. So by doing this, as you can see, we are talking to the server because you don't know whether it's going to be succeeded or not. So you want to create this callbacks to know how things are going. All right. So let's actually try this. I'm going to rerun my app. Okay, actually let's actually see this little console here if that's successful or not. Okay, I'm gonna do this user.gmail. I'm gonna do this 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so once that is done, I'm gonna click on this button, sign up. So it said failed to sign up. All right, so something is wrong right here. If you check out some of these errors here, there are some errors that okay, so the given password is invalid. Password should be at least 6 characters. So that's why you actually fail to sign up. So whenever it fails to sign up, you should actually print more information about the error. So if you want to print the error, I think you can just print some of the error information. Let's try this again. This is the better practice, at least to see what the exception is. Try to sign up. All right, as you can see, fail to sign up, and then this is the error because the password is invalid. All right, so that you can know it. Now let's actually fix it. I'm gonna go to 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 6 characters. Not a very strong password, but it meets the requirement. Click on sign up. All right, so this time it's successfully signed up. And that should go to this block right here. So to prove that this has been successfully signed up, I need to go back to Firebase portal. Go to here. All right, right now there's no user. If I refresh, and you will see that there's a user being signed up. And then you have the email, that's something I typed, and then also the time when it's created, and also there's a unique user ID you can use. But then you don't see the password because the password has been hashed and also has been securely saved in their service. So that's why you want to use this authentication service, because you don't need to worry about the security issues. All right, so that's how this method call works. It's really simple, as you can see. You just need to do one line of code actually to make this happen. All right, so this part of the code, okay, you can also simplify it in a different way. You could say that if you don't want to write all of this, because most of the time you will need to do then and catch error. So there's another way you can do this piece of code. Okay, I'm gonna actually rewrite this. Okay, I'll just comment out this one here. Okay, an alternative way to do this. Okay, I would just call Firebase Authentication .instance create user with email and password. These are all the same. So email controller dot text. All right, and then we will need to do password controller dot text. All right, so this line is too long. Okay, I'm gonna break them and then bring them back right here so that it's easier to see. Okay, now you can immediately do the then and catch error. You don't have to write this thing here. Okay, that's something I preferred. So I'll go back to here. Okay, I'll do dot then if it's successful, and I'm gonna run this dot catch error if it's not successful, and I'm gonna do this. So this way, you know, you just put one line of code, so it's actually easier for you to track. Okay, so let me just put everything with a little indentation. Okay, maybe this one will be a little clear, right? So this one line of code actually does the same thing as this one. I just don't have to create this object, something like this, right? So I can print, and I can print all of this. All right, and then let's just clear all the indentation. All right, so this piece of code does the same thing. So I kind of prefer the first one because every time when you call this one, you will always need to specify what you want to do if it's successfully done, what you want to do if there's error happening, right? So I think this is probably a better way to do it. You will see a lot of this one in the Firebase libraries and the SDKs. A lot of those follow the same format, right? Make a call, then catch error. Okay, so that's how it works. All right, so once you are signed up successfully, for example, we want to come back to the previous screen. So let's see Flutter how to come back. So close screen, go back, something like that, right? So let's actually see if we can find anything. Navigate to the new screen and back, right? So there are two routes: push, return to the first one using navigator dot pop. This is very easy. So if we want to go back, let's say if you successfully signed it up and we want to come back to the previous screen, so we can just do this one. Okay, navigator dot pop and coming back to the previous screen. All right, let's try this one more time. All right, so I'm going to come back from the login screen. Okay, I'm going to sign up, and right here, and it is the email. I'm going to do the user2@gmail.com. 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, so I'm going to click on sign up. That is successfully, and then it brings me back to the login screen. Then coming back to this Firebase, I refresh my user database. I do have one more account right here called user2. All right, so you can just sign up as many as you want. Now, once you're coming back, when you do the login screen, it's actually exactly the same. So I'm going to do this really quickly. All right, so coming back to the login screen, and then right here, and then when you click on the login screen, and you can't just directly go to the next screen. You want to basically check the username and password to see if that's correct. Now again, you use the Firebase service to do it, and to do that, you also need to grab the username and email, password, everything. So let's create this thing very quick. All right, so email controller, text editing controller, and then you do password controller, and then text editing controller. All right, and then put this two controller into the text field. This one is for email controller and email controller, and then the next one is password. It's right here, controller and password controller. Once you have this, when you are clicking on the button, we can actually grab those. Now, what we're trying to do here is the login. All right, so we do the same approach, guys. So watch carefully. So Firebase Authentication instance, use the auto completion, so automatically bring you the import statement. Dot, there should be some method called a sign in with email and password. Do this one. All right, email coming from the email controller dot text, and the password will be the password controller dot text. All right, so this is the future statement. So I'm going to break the line here, go back to the line dot then. If this is successfully, I'm going to do a block of a code. If this is not successfully, catch error, I'm also going to do a block. Always write these two blocks here because this is an asynchronous call. You want to know when it's successful or not, right? So if it's successful, I'm going to print a message, login successfully. All right, and this one is failed to log in. and I also want you to print the actual error message. All right, and then if it's successful, we also want to go to the next screen, so I can move this piece of code into here. You only do this one if you successfully log in. So that's how you can do the login, really easy. But the structure is the same as the sign up. So let's run this. Okay, now we're in the login screen. I'm gonna do user2@gmail.com. The password, I'm gonna do a wrong password 123. Okay, if I do that, I will click on the login screen, login button. Fail to log in because the password is invalid. So I didn't really show any of the errors. You can change the UI to just show an error message. That should be pretty simple. I do another one, I try to log in, and I still fail. So if I do, okay, let's do the correct 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I do that, I click on login. All right, so that's successful, and then bring me to the next screen. All right, so that's how you can use Firebase Authentication to do a Firebase login and sign up very quickly. And remember, this is talking to the real backend server. Okay, this data is not saved locally; it's actually saved in a cloud database, and it can help you to manage all the users for your app. So that's why Firebase, as a kind of backend as a service, really simplifies a lot of the development for the app. So a lot of common functionality you need for the app, you can actually find them in the Firebase portal.